To get started, sir?
You bet. Fire away so we can go quickly.
All right. You got 20 minutes for me? That'll be the most?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. Let me hit this little button right here and we'll get started.
Welcome to the Current Events Podcast with your host, Doug Currin.
Okay. Welcome to the Current Events Podcast. Today's guest is one of my favorites, Drayton Mclane Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend is joining us today. He's a self-made billionaire, turned his family grocery distribution company into an international firm. And in 1991, he sold it to Sam Walton, his tennis buddy. And Walmart took it. They sold it to Berkshire Hathaway. And now Drayton is here and he's joining us now. Hey, Drayton.
Well, good morning to you. And it's good to renew our friendship that goes back a number of years. And you did a great job in Central Texas, and particularly you and I got in a number of charitable programs.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I'm glad you're joining us today. Let's start with you being an entrepreneur wholeheartedly. That is what you live, breathe, and do. You have one of the most successful companies in the world right now. Your success is in the billions. Your story is really, truly an all-American success story. What did you think when you woke up one day? Did it happen this way, that you wanted to help a lot of people make such a big company?
Well, when we started out, it wasn't that big an ambition. My grandfather came from Abbeville, South Carolina in the 1890s, and he didn't have a lot of education, formal education. And he worked in agriculture, and then he opened a retail grocery store. But in 1894, he opened a wholesale grocery company in Cameron. Cameron is about 35 miles east of Temple. When I grew up there in the 40s and 50s, Cameron was a city of about 5,000. And so it was in a rural environment. I grew up there, had wonderful parents, very Christian too, really powerful, strong Christian parents. And I had two older daughters, and they really took an interest in our education and our Christian belief. And I grew up there and went to Baylor University. And then I got interested in our family business. It was a wholesale grocery business there in 1960 when I joined it out of college. And it was doing about $3 million a year, and I was the 68th employee. And I remember I had to come ask my father if I could join the family business. He never pushed it on me at all. I had to ask him, and great, he said, come go to work with him. And I asked him what my job. I thought I was going to be his number one assistant. And there were 67 employees, and he said, you're going to go to work on the third shift at night loading trucks. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, I have gone to college for 6 years, and you're going to put me on the third shift at night loading truck? And he said, yes, I'm going to. You need to learn the business from the ground up. And boy, that really, really irritated me. I thought, wow, I've got to start on the third shift at night. But that was the best thing he could do for me. I worked for 18 months on the third shift and the second shift at night, and I was working with people who were working in the distribution center, driving trucks, loading trucks, doing the work of the business. And I learned them personally. I learned how to really be their friend, and I saw what it would take to help motivate. So that really paid dividends later as I moved up and had more responsibility in the business. What would I say to young people if they were getting out? I would say to people, young people, when they're getting out of high school or such, if it's possible to go to college and be around professors and other students that inspire you, you'll learn by that. And then once you finish your education, you've got to decide what business and industry really interests you. And then if you go to work for a big company, or even a medium-sized company, my encouragement to you is say to them, as my father did to me, you want to learn the business from the ground up. So say to them, you want to work inside the business and work your way up rather than getting a lofty title at the mid-level of the business. Start at the beginning and work your way up. It will teach you a lot of knowledge. It will help you. It will inspire the people in the company that you wanted to go start at the very beginning. And then you'll have a lot of reference as you're moving forward in the business. So start at the beginning of the company, and you will zoom up the responsibility.
Very good advice, because I think a lot of people like to earn respect of their coworkers, of their managers, and I think that really helps that, come to fruition and happen.
Yes, it does. So, but not only do you earn their respect, you learn how they think. And then later, as you get more responsibility, you learn how to motivate them and give them responsibility.
So let's talk management for a second. Dale Carnegie, I'm sure you're familiar with his book, How to Influence People, Win Friends. He always said in there, catch someone doing something right. How do you follow that philosophy?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that when I was working with my dad and I had more responsibility, in Cameron, that time was still a little town over 5,000. The manager of the Chamber of Commerce brought a person with Dale Carnegie by to see my dad. And so my dad mentioned to me, he said, I think you and 2 or 3 of our executives ought to take the Dale Carnegie course. I again said, hey, Dad, I've been to college for 6 years. And he said, well, I think there's going to be about 35 people in the community that are going to take this Dale Carnegie course. That was very good for me, too. I, again, learned how to respect people and how in Dale Carnegie, most of the talks you give are no more than 60-second talks or 2-minute talks. So you have to learn quickly how to organize your thoughts and how to express yourself very quickly. And so that was a good experience for me to take that Dale Carnegie course. And I can still refer back to things I learned from Dale Carnegie, but I learned from others in the community. And I learned how to talk with more confidence and to really think through what I'm going to say and say it in a very concise way. So that was helpful for me as I was beginning to develop my leadership. As you're in business, it's not one button that's going to get you there. It's a combination of thousands of things. And your real reference is getting to know people, learn from people, observe people that are successful and see why they're successful, and see what you can learn and how you can apply that. That Dale Carnegie course was very helpful for us.
Very nice. I haven't met anybody who took the course. All I've known is people who
I'm a
read the
graduate.
book. Yes, I love that.
Can I give you an experience there right quick, Doug?
Of course, go ahead.
Every night you have to give 2 different speeches, and they give out a pen, just a Dale Carnegie pen that has Dale Carnegie, and you were a winner that night. And the course, as I recall it, is about a 15-week course, so it's over a period of time. Well, the first 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't win any of the awards. I thought, what? I've got a great education. I've got a lot of experience. I didn't win the award for about 3 or 4 weeks. And that really got under my skin. And I thought, I need to see how I can better communicate with these people that are there and get their emotions and where they will like the ideas and the thoughts I'm expressing. So it really motivated me again to learn to communicate. The profession you're in, communication is the deal, and how you come across and how people see you and how people judge you. And that is certainly true. And I learned a lot of that in that Dale Carnegie course. So my to the people that are viewing this is seek out ways to learn. None of us are a finished product. I'm 85 years old and I get to work about 7:15 every day, and I got to get better every day because people are younger with technology, new ideas, new thought processes. So you got to constantly refresh yourself.
And I think that's probably key to most business. You have to be able to drop back and punt and be ready for the next thing, because if you don't, you'll get left behind. I admire you for getting to work at 7:15 in the morning every day. That's quite an accomplishment, my friend.
Well, when you grow up in the grocery business, distribution business, and retail is really a 24-hour business. So I always said, no matter what time you get there, you're late. So I always got to work somewhere between 6:30 and now 7:15. So you got to get there, and you got to get the activities going, and you've got to prepare for that day. And so the day's already developing, and so be prepared, and it certainly can pay dividends for you.
Did you ever get that pen from the course?
Yeah, I finally won 4 or 5 of them, but I had to work hard at it. I thought, man, here's some of these people. I went to Baylor for 4 years. I went to Michigan State and got an MBA program, and they're getting the awards, and I'm not. And I thought, well, I'm not doing things right. So I had to reevaluate how I was communicating with thee, and how, whatever the subject matter was for that night, how I was presenting my thoughts and my ideas. So say to you, you've got to relate to the people you're talking to. You've got to be humble, and you've got to be able to get them to feel comfortable with you.
Very good. Let's talk Bentonville. I worked in Bentonville. I covered Walmart a lot, very in-depth coverage of the home office, which is based there. Had a house there, lived there, everything. What was your relationship with Sam Walton? I find this pretty interesting.
As I said, I went in business with my dad in Cameron, Texas, and that was in 1959. And I knew we needed to build a modern grocery distribution building. So I convinced my dad that we should build a very modern building, and we built one in Temple, Texas, which was 35 miles away. And why Temple? Well, at that time, Temple was about 30,000. Cameron was 5,000. Temple was on Interstate 35, which is one of the major logistics arteries in America. And so in 1966, we moved our business here, and we started servicing supermarkets and convenience stores in about a 100-mile radius. And when I started in the business, we were doing about 3 million. In 66, when we moved here, we were doing about 5 million. And so then in the late 70s, I heard that there was a really growing retailer. He wasn't a supermarket, but was a discount store called Walmart, based in Bentonville. You know, when you're in Temple, Texas, you can think about Bentonville, and that's like saying going to Chicago or going to Los Angeles. That's a long way away. And I didn't know Sam Walton. They were not in Texas at that time. They were basically in Arkansas, in Oklahoma, Missouri, and in that market, but they were growing quite rapidly. So I had a friend of mine that I knew Sam, and I asked him if I came up, would he introduce me? And I did to Sam, and told Sam who I was. They had their own warehouses. I told them we had warehouses and distribution centers, trucks, computer systems, and we could help them. And he said that several times I saw him, well, we've got more warehouses than you do and more trucks than you do and bigger. We don't need anything. Well, Doug, I decided then, always in my life, being rejected is not the end of anything. That's just the beginning. And so I knew that I had to go make an impression. So I went the first of every month for 9 months, and I would see Sam in their office there. And my theme was, whatever, if you ever have a problem in logistics, we can fix it for you. I'm not sure I knew how to do that, but I had to start somewhere. And so I constantly said that to he and David Gleiss, who was the president. And then one day after about 9 or 10 months, Sam called me and said, "You still want to help us with something?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "We'll be here tomorrow." So that was how I got to know Sam Walton and David Gleiss, and we started doing certain types of logistics that were a difficulty for them. And we did a good job. And they were expanding then, and they had just then, and this was in the late 70s and the early 80s, were expanding into Texas. So as they grew, he and I became good friends. Sam was one tough rascal. He was a great businessman. He was a person of impeccable integrity, but he expected everyone to perform at a high level. And that's what I enjoy. I think whatever you do in life, you ought to do it better than anybody else. And so we kind of clicked with him. And so we began to do business with Walmart.
Very nice. I like that story a lot. You talk about rejection. It's not the end of everything. It's the beginning. You just said, we all fail. How do you bounce back?
Life has a lot of successful things, and you get pushed around in life, and things, even when it's not your fault, sometimes things don't work the way they should. So you just continue to follow. I said we built this new distribution center in 1966, and we were servicing small supermarkets and stores in smaller cities, and not in Dallas or Houston. And it shows how if you pay attention and follow things, it can lead to good things. One day in 1968, there was a 7-Eleven near downtown Temple. Incidentally, that store is where Channel 6 got their headquarters in Temple today. But anyway, they had a 7-Eleven store near downtown Temple, and I stopped in it late one evening, and what I wanted, they didn't have. And I said to the store manager, "Well, you didn't have what I was looking for." And he said, "Well, we have a lot of out of stocks in our store. We don't have a good grocery supplier." And I told him, "Well, that's the business I'm in." And I said, "Who can I talk to?" And he gave the name. I can still remember this was 1968. And he said, "The name of our district manager is Alton Wall." And he gave me his number. So I called Alton Wall the next day and told him who it was. "I know of you." And he said that he was over all the stores in the Temple Belton area for 7-Eleven. I said, "Well, boy, I'd like to be your grocery supplier." And he said, I don't have any authority over who we buy from. But he said, "I'll give you the name of the person in Dallas that's over all of Texas of our purchasing." And so I appreciate it. He gave me his name. And so I gave him a call, and he never returned my call. So I thought, well, I'll write him a letter. Back, this was in 1968, we used to write people things. And so I remember I took a course at Baylor in business letter writing, and I wrote, and his name was Pete Exline with 7-Eleven in Dallas. And I wrote Pete Exline a really, really nice letter about we were in the grocery distribution business in Temple, Texas, and we could really do a great job for them here. And I wrote that letter, and what really upset me was I wrote that letter, and about 6 or 8 days later, I got my letter back from him. He wrote on the bottom of my letter. That really made me mad. He just said, "Not interested, Exline." And that really ticked me off because he sent my letter back to me. And so I thought, Well, I'm not going to let that guy get the best of me. So the first of every month, I wrote him an original new letter. Never heard anything from him. And I wrote 10 letters to him. Never heard outside of the first one when he said never heard anything. So I kept sending him a letter the first of every month, and I changed the letter each time. Never heard anything. After the 10th letter, one day, my phone rang and it said, McLane. I said, yes, sir. He said, Pete Exline with 7-Eleven. You're going to be in your office tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I can still remember that. I said, absolutely. He said, I'll be there. So he came down, and after a period of negotiations for 3 or 4 weeks, we came to agreement. Not only got the business in Temple and Belton, but we got all of the 7-Eleven stores in Waco, Temple, Belton, Killeen, and Austin. There were 92 stores. And that was a great beginning for us in the convenience store business. And so we did a great job for 7-Eleven for that and filled a niche for them. And I thought, boy, let's get after other stores. So there are a lot of convenience stores everywhere. So making a long story short, I started in 68. Today, McLane Company is the largest supplier to convenience stores in America. We supply over 50,000 convenience stores every week. And so we started with 7-Eleven and then mushroomed from there. And then and we were delivering in about a 3-state area when I first started talking to, we had built a distribution center in Denver, Colorado in 1975 to serve convenience stores. So when we first started working with Walmart, we could supply their stores they had a few stores in Texas, Oklahoma, certainly Arkansas and Missouri and those states. So that's how we got started with them and did a great job. Whatever you do, you got to do better than anybody else and do better and follow through and just give great customer service.
I think that's key.
Sorry, I talked too much.
That's okay. I can't let you go without asking you about the Houston Astros. Kind of a big deal, especially after last night's play. They had a very good night. Talk about when you
they're off to the American League playoffs now.
They are. Talk about when you wanted to buy them and you did.
Well, that's down the line. That was in 1992. Again, life, business, and your faith is all relationships. And so I got to know a lot of people in the food business, just like, as you know, the people in the media business. I got to know a lot of people that were customers. And there was a customer in Houston. His name was Bob Armstead. This was in 1992. He owned some stores in Houston called Randall's. And Randall's was a big supermarket chain in Houston and Austin. And they were customers of ours. And Bob Armstead called me one day and said, I'd like for you to come to Houston. We have 6 of us that are considering buying the Houston Astros. And we'd like for you to join our group that's considering buying the Houston Astros. And I told him I had no interest in that I love the grocery business. I love running McLane Company. And he said, well, this could be interesting. You can do it on the side. So out of respect to Bob and the other 4 people that were considering buying the Houston Astros, I told Bob that I would come down there, and we met for about 4 months to buy the Astros. And the Astros were owned at that time by John McMullen. John lived in New York City and had kind of had a tumultuous relationship with the people in Houston. But John was a difficult person. And our group just wasn't able to come to a decision to buy the Astros from him. So our group decided to break up. And I thought one day, driving back from Houston, I said, I'd like to tackle hard things. And this got to be more of an interesting project. And so I called my former people we were negotiating. Did they mind if I try to negotiate to buy the Houston Astros on my own? And they said, boy, if you want to do that after you've learned how difficult he is and the Major League Baseball is, go ahead. And so I viewed John no different than negotiating with other customers. And so I told him I'd fly to New York and meet with him. And I took an asset with me. I had two sons. One at that time was 16 years old and the other was 13 years old. And the 13-year-old was a big baseball fan. The only problem was he was a New York Mets fan. So we flew to New York to meet with John and went to an Astro Mets game. And John got to where he really liked Denton. And but anyway, negotiated over a period of several weeks, and we agreed to purchase the Houston Astros. So anyway, we owned them for 19 years, and that was interesting, fun. It was different than running McLane Company, but it was basically the same thing, working with people and meeting problems and trying to solve problems.
I love your philosophy, sir. Hey, I appreciate you coming on with us today. I appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate you.
It goes way back there, but that's life in a career. And Doug, just you weren't in the grocery business, so I wasn't trying to sell you anything or buy something from you. But you were friendly, you were thoughtful, and you and I both got involved in civic projects that helped other people. And that was what I enjoyed. And that was why, when you asked me to come on your program, that was why I thought it would be good to do so.
Well, I know you're a busy guy. I will let you go. Drayton
Did I
McLane
confuse
Jr.
you by too much discussion or too many ideas? But, the career has been over 50 years, and it's hard to concise this. And the passing thought, people have asked me, said, well, what have you gained? I had a friend say to me one time, said, you know what the sad part of life is? I said, what is that? Said, people have no plan for their life. Said, people will spend more time planning their annual vacation than they do planning their life. They just go from event to event to event in their life. So they have to plan their life. So I encourage the people that watch your program is to get a plan where you want to go and adjust as you go. I adjusted and did a number of different things. And then get your philosophy of life. And my personal philosophy is personal integrity. In our family and our life, of high Christian values, integrity, always show respect for other people and try to enhance other people's lives, make life better for other people. And then use that with imagination and creativity and big new ideas.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Drayton, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
You made it fun.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
We'll certainly look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.